Hi, everyone. Before I get started today, I just wanted to extend my thoughts and prayers to everyone in the state of California affected by these wildfires. I know a lot of you, technicians, talent, industry, just people in general, are struggling right now, and I'm really hoping things start to get better soon. So I just wanted to start out with that today before we get started. So with that, let's go ahead and just get right to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I guess it's the second episode of SoundCart Live, and we're talking about something not so old-fashioned, phone patches. And we're going to go into that and talk about all the variations of phone patches and what we can do on a film set and what are all the possible types of circumstances and explore that. And then I'm going to get into also how to do a live phone patch from the Scorpio. And you don't have to have a Scorpio to do this. There any device that can take a USB input from an iOS, and talk a little bit about the signal flow and workflow from that on set. So let's go ahead and just get right to it right after this quick message. And clean, quality dialogue in vehicles on a film set is one of the most challenging and rewarding processes, and productions continue to push the boundaries of what's possible. This is why I created Recording Dialogue in Cars, a one-stop masterclass for every member of the production sound team. In this course, I'll break down all of today's terminology. We'll cover microphones and rigging, discuss how to navigate complex camera setups, and how to achieve reliable RF performance in the most challenging environments. Come enroll into Recording Dialogue in Cars today at mwsound.net, and I'll see you soon. And hello, everyone, and welcome to SoundCart Live, which is just a live stream from my SoundCart here in the studio, where we're going to explore the topic of phone patches today, or pretty much an everything patch, you know, because we've got films and television shows that happen in the past, maybe old rotary phones. We've also got, of course, video calls and mobile devices in the future, or today more likely. And then you might be working on something sci-fi or anything that could be off-camera dialogue where they're actually talking to the talent that you may not be filming. So we're going to explore a little bit of that today and talk about, and also do one here live in the studio with the Scorpio, and go over all the routing and different possibilities for that. So, so the first thing when it comes to identifying a workflow for a phone patch comes right into the process of what are the creative requirements. So let's go ahead and look right at that here and go into our keynote and get started. So what are the creative requirements? So a possible workflow. So the first thing usually that we're doing, or that I'm doing, is when I read a script and I notice that there's a phone call, video call, it could be a virtual pretend Zoom call, or even a real one, or any kind of communication that's happening on set where someone is speaking to someone else, could be in this world of phone patch. And I want to then just figure out, okay, what are the possibilities here? Am I going to be able to do an IEM? Are we going to do a speaker on set? Are they going to read it off camera? Those are the type of workflows. And then I'm going to have a simple conversation with the director or AD about, hey, what's the preferred method? What would we like to do here in regards to this phone call? It could be simple as, I'm just going to read the camera, the lines off camera to the talent. So no further action is necessary, which is quite common. But a lot of the times I'll get other types of requests, which we'll get into. Next, I want to coordinate with the other departments. Two that come to mind immediately is one would be the props department. What kind of phone is this? Is it an old brick phone from the 1980s? Is it a mobile phone that they're going to be sending a video playback to, or just is it going to have a green screen on the front? Hair is another department that I think about. Is this actor have hair that will cover an IEM? What is the hairstyle going to be? That can be a big one for helping me determine the type of workflow. And then, just like we mentioned, could the IEM work visually? Do we need to coordinate with VFX? If you have the rapport with the VFX and producers, and it's important to them that we use an IEM for a particular process, that could be an option for painting those things out. And then finally, we're going to deploy a technical plan and test it and make sure everything is set and ready to go before we get started. So some of the possible workflows, obviously, and a very common one is the AD, maybe director, but most likely the assistant director or the script supervisor is going to read the lines off camera. That is very, very common, and it could simply come down to actor availability, meaning that we don't have access to that actor, they're not working that day, and that's just the way it's going to go. There are scenarios, however, in this where we would still deploy some sort of IEM device to the actor or speaker on set, depending upon the proximity of the AD, script, or person, or whoever's reading those lines to the talent off camera. Next, we're going to be deploying a mix to the talent or the individual reading off camera, which I just mentioned as an IEM or speaker. So there might be a mix minus going to, say, the script supervisor with some sort of additional ComTech or send of any sort. And then also a mix of a pre-fade ISO or submixed ISO going to the talent in an in-ear monitor or speaker on set. Once again, we talk about the IEM versus the speaker. A lot of it has to do with what we can get away with visually. And what we're going to do today and talk about here on the routing and demonstrate is the talent's not on set, but is patched in via phone patch to talent via IEM. And I've got a very particular story that I want to tell surrounding this workflow. So I was working on a TV show, and the line producer comes over to me and says, Michael, for this phone call scene, because we were about to do a scene with an actor who was on a telephone call, it was based around 2008 or 6, so this was like a flip phone. It was a prop phone. But the phone actually functioned. So it could physically take a call, but it wasn't going to be an option for what we were doing. But the question was, could we have the actor who was based in LA jump on a phone call and patch it into the talent? And that's exactly what we're going to be demonstrating here today with the Scorpio on how to do that particular workflow. So really the goal here with any sort of phone patch is to obviously support the performance, but it doesn't need to be just narrative. Like you might be working on a documentary. That would be an excellent example of where we would want to hear not only the on-camera talent, but also the other side of the phone call. So that could be a great example of having the option to be able to hear both and capture both. Or it could be in a reality TV type workflow is another example where we would want to hear the phone call of whatever the unfolding drama is of what we're going to be seeing. So we're going to take a look a little bit at the routing here of what's going on in the Scorpio. And I also want to say thank you everyone for being here, and so glad for joining today. And I'm excited to do this. And I've actually signed someone up, a friend of mine, Cameron, who you may have seen on this channel, to help with this demonstration. So let's talk a little bit about the signal flow possibilities before we get any routing or anything like that. So I want to go into the screen share here, and here you can see I just kind of jot down a lot of the possible routing scenarios coming into a phone patch. And as you can see, we have on the left-hand side here, we have a off-screen talent and then an on-screen talent. And for this demonstration, I'm going to be the on-screen talent coming through the boom. And then the off-screen talent in this particular scenario is going to be the talent on the phone that's going to be a practical send. So for this particular demonstration, what we're going to be doing is using Google Voice to come through and route into the USB input and output of the Scorpio. So this, earlier when we started the stream, I had mentioned that it does not require a Scorpio to do this. So any device, I'll give you an example of 3 devices right now that can actually work with this Google Voice that we're going to do a phone patch through on the Scorpio. You can use a MixPre 3, 6, 10, whatever, because that also has a USB input output. You can also use a Sonosax M2D2. I have one of those. I don't have it with me here, but that's another excellent device that would interface a phone patch into, say, a Kantar or something like that, because it can throughput the iOS interface to the mixer recorders. Because what we're really doing here is we're interfacing Google Voice via 2 inputs and 2 outputs on the USB here, if you can see that. So basically my voice is going to be routed. I'm going to be the on-screen talent here for this demonstration. Is going to be routed directly into the Scorpio and sent to Google Voice down a submix, which I'll show you, or a mix minus. And then it's going to be returning back to me via the USB as well, down the mix bus, which is also sending to you. So this is really just more of a demonstration of, it's very helpful for me in my particular workflows to write this stuff down. So first things first, if you haven't used Google Voice before with a Scorpio or an iOS interface for a phone patch, there's going to be some settings that we're going to need to get right. So let's go into those settings here, and I'll show you that in a moment. There we go. Okay, so here are the settings inside of Google Voice. So Google Voice, obviously, we can simply install it on your iOS device or your other device, whatever device you have that supports that. Apps, and then you want to make sure that the make and receive calls are prefer Wi-Fi and mobile data. It will not work with your regular phone, at least on an iPhone. So you have to do, if you're going to use this app and as a USB audio interface, on the iPhone, if you try to use your carrier, it's going to disable your USB audio input and output. However, if you prefer Wi-Fi and mobile data, you're going to be safe. And then the other one here is I'm going to actually choose my iOS device as for incoming calls. So that's the settings. You can just look at this. There are other settings, but these are the ones that make them work. So let's get into what's happening on the Scorpio side. And for this, I'm going to show you the remote app, SD Remote. And I have the ones that are armed, even though we're not tracking this particular stream right now, are just there for visual reference. And what I want to show you here is on track 11, we have the iPhone or phone as the name. And then here in the corner, in the upper right-hand corner right here, the input is set to USB 1. So what that means is that this particular device here, when I plug it into the Scorpio via the USB-C on the side here, I'm going to be able to interconnect it with Scorpio. It's just going to show up automatically. There are some I gotchas you got to think about with this. If the phone goes to sleep or locks like this, you could lose connection. So you can go into the settings and disable that and make sure it doesn't go to sleep or lock. Just a quick note on that. I noticed the iPad doesn't struggle from this, but the phone does. So you're going to want to kind of test this workflow and make sure your flow is going to be smooth before you get it into action. So let's go back to the routing here, and then let's go to the buses and see what's feeding our iPhone. So here is a mix minus on bus 5, and I like to be in the habit of labeling all of my buses and outputs on what the source is. It's very helpful for workflow, but as you can see, what's going to send to the phone is a post-fade 1, which is my voice, which is what you're listening to here. And then also 9 and 10 down here, which is the music playback input, which I have looping into this stream currently. So that is what's happening with the phone. Now, as far as where the phone is coming back to, then we're going to go into the routing page here, and we can see that the phone itself is also coming back into our routing matrix down to your Dante out, which is feeding the stream, and also into the headphone matrix. So that's very important to where the phone is actually sending, because you want to make sure that your IEM is going to send to just the phone pre-fade. So let me give you an example so I'm being clear on that. So if I go to the buses here, if I'm going to send it to an IEM, notice here on the bus that I've got a pre-fade of channel 11 sending out of bus 4. And then if I go to the outputs here, I've got a talent IEM on 4, which is the source of that bus 4. So in fact, I should just enable that there so it would actually work. So if I'm going to send a pre-fade send of the other side of the phone call, which is me, to either the speaker or the IEM source. And I'm also going to want to have control of that level here, as you can see here in the mix minus. I've even got a fader there that I can change so I can turn that speaker up or down, or the IEM feed up or down. So it's kind of very similar to the signal flow conversation. It's another form of signal flow, but this is a really, really cool party trick, because obviously when we're working here, we're portable. We don't have the ability to have, we're not like a radio broadcast with a large mixing console. I don't know if any of you have ever worked in studios, remember the Gettner, 1RU, telephone patch devices. I know JK Audio has some. But this is a really, really cool way to interface with Google Voice. So let's go ahead and plug this in and give Cameron a quick call, and let's see and make this thing work here. So to do so, I'm here on my desk. I need to plug in the USB here, and I'm going to go ahead and I open Google Voice and go ahead and make the phone call right now and to Cameron, and let's see if we can't make this work. Okay, so right now it's not going through the interface, so let's try that again. So I plugged in the USB, but it wasn't going through. So let's try that one more time and see if we can't get that to show up. Okay. There we go. It was the plug it in and plug it out fix.
Take two. Hello, this is Cameron.
Hey, Cameron, welcome to Take Two and SoundCart Live. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going very well. It's a nice day, kind of enjoying the snow, and playoff football is actually happening now, and then just stream and learning some new things.
So nice. Very good. Well, thanks for jumping on the call. So right now, Cameron is talking to us here on the input of, let's pull it up, of channel 11. And go ahead and, so what else you got planned today, Cameron?
Well, it's going to be playoff football the rest of the night. Then other than that, just house chores, just laundry, getting things organized, planning out the week, doing some prep, and then we're all set.
Yeah, good. So as everyone can see here, and we can see Cameron's input coming into 11. And how we are hearing it and how you're hearing it is he's actually coming through the mix bus. So all of these are feeding the mix bus, which is then going down Dante, so you can hear, and also I'm monitoring that mix bus on Dante 9 and 10, and I'll show that to you here just so everyone can see. Here is the mix minus mix bus. Now how Cameron is hearing us, which is important, is through a mix minus feed. So Cameron, I'm gonna attempt to try to feed you a little bit of music, but it's not gonna work. Let me see if I can't get it playing again for some reason. Stand by.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Oh no, there we. It was just at a spot where it was like faded down. So let me know if you're hearing a little music, Cameron.
All right. Yep, I hear it.
Okay, great. Yep. And then obviously the mix minus feed to Cameron. If I pull that down. Hey, Cameron, are you still hearing us? Cameron, you there? Uh-oh, we lost Cameron. Hey, Cameron, you still there?
Yep, I hear you. Yep, you just came back.
Yeah, so we have complete control on the bus, mix minus, whatever we want to feed Cameron. Cameron, what do you think? Do you have any questions since we have you here on SoundCart Live?
Yeah, so my first question was the mix minus. So I guess my next question would be, if a producer came up to you and they wanted to execute exactly this, how long would it take you to set up? Like if they said, hey, how much time do you need to get this ready to go? What would you tell them?
Well, hopefully, like we talked about at the start of the stream, Cameron, there would have been a conversation had. So I would be anticipating whether they're going to be reading it off camera or someone else is going to be reading it and we're going to use an IEM, and all of that needs to happen in advance. But if it happened like on the day and there was a change of plan and somehow we did a patch, that just depends. I mean, it depends on what we have prepped and ready to go. I mean, my hopes is it would be as quick as possible. That's it. It's just, I mean, it's like, what, do you have the gear accessible? Is it ready to go? Because Cameron and I have worked together on shows, and he's aware that usually we'll prep everything in advance, usually in cases, and we'll have kind of everything pre-batted and ready to deploy. So, if I have an inkling, Cameron, that there might be a possibility, we might pre-prep all of that. And the hopes is there would never be any waiting. That's, I think, always the goal, is it just feels seamless. So as soon as they're ready to shoot, we're ready to go.
Yep. Love it. So
yeah.
I also know sometimes, they don't like to give the prep and they walk up, hey, we got a brand new idea. We're going to throw you right now. And, so just always good to know kind of a number or how many minutes or just kind of the process it takes to get ready. But no, I mean, outside of that, just kind of enjoying and just taking some notes, and it's really cool setup, so I love it. Yeah. Well,
Cameron, thanks so much for jumping on the call, and so we could demonstrate a phone patch. I mean, to me, it's just, I love this. I mean, I've done phone patches 20 years ago in a studio with mixers and hardware, but it really comes down to just creating the right mix minus, the right routing scenario, and just communicating the type of methods that we're going to work with. So thanks so much, Cameron, for jumping on the call. And we'll talk to you soon, man.
Yep, talk to you soon. No worries.
All right, take it easy. Yeah.
All right, take it easy. Yep.
All right, so that was successful. As you see, I had to plug it in again because at first it wasn't registering. So, it's a lot of the times you're just going to have to make sure that the tech is working and doing, all the stuff that you need to do. So I think as far as like patches are concerned, I can go ahead and pull up this screen share one more time with with some of the routing samples so you can take a look at that. Really it comes down to your imagination and what you can realize. A live phone patch is a super cool thing. If the talent, is going to be on camera and it's a prop phone, well, we're obviously going to use an in-ear monitor, right, for a private feed. We can also use a speaker, but you need to make sure that those submixes and mixes are appropriately sent pre-post fader, that you have control of those things, because there could be variables involved such as delay and things that you're going to need to think about. But typically with a phone call, providing they're not there directly on set next to the set, you shouldn't have any issues with that. So I think that kind of covers us for this portion. And I do want to take a moment to talk about comments and questions and stuff like that before we wrap this up and say hi. Thank you so much. And I apologize, I cannot pronounce the name correctly. If you could help me with that. Thank you for saying hello, and thanks for being here. I'd rather not butcher it. I hope that's okay. Zlatko, great to see you. Zlatko was here on the last stream. Thanks for saying hello. And just getting through some of these hellos here, and then we can get to some of the questions. Black Sun, 7774. Greetings, hello, thanks for being here. It's great to see some new names here as well. And Alan, thanks so much for being here. Alan, longtime viewer of the channel and friend, and thank you for being here, Alan, for, gosh, man, I've known you, Alan, I gotta say at least 8 years now. And so we lost the audio when we switched to the tablet feed. Oh, no. Please tell me that wasn't a consistent thing there throughout the stream. Otherwise, I'm redoing the whole dang thing. Thank you for the note on that. There we go. Hi, Michael. I like your explanation, but your handwriting threw me off. Love all your videos. Yep. Thank you, Zlatko. I think the chicken scratch definitely is, it takes some time to break it down. But I think, as long as you can read your own handwriting, you're going to be in great shape. And turn the iPhone on airplane mode. Wow, Alan, that's a really, really good point. And I had mine on airplane mode because you obviously don't want to be getting a phone call in a live call, situation. Great comment here, Alan. Thanks for the comments. And Norm, oh, great to hear you. Hey, Michael, quick question. Why not just use the built-in phone instead of Google? I think that might have come in before I explained it, but Norm, the answer to that question is if you try to use the regular phone with this particular method, the USB audio interface as the iOS device in this case, it disables your ability to be able to use it. I don't know why. There might be a workaround that I haven't found, but that's the reason why I don't do it. Thank you for the question, Norman. It's great to see you. Maybe it's a little off topic, but why does your mix channel always hit the limiter on Scorpio? Zlatko, because I like things hot, man. I try to keep things, I tickle it just a little bit. This is a live stream, and I also have a bus limiter on what's sending to you guys with a little bit of compression as well. for the stream. Good question, by the way. You obviously don't want to be hitting things too hard, but you don't want to be going too low either, especially for an application like this. Great question. Norm, if possible, could you please explain your mix minus setup? Well, of course I can. So let's get right into here and talk very quickly about how we were sending the audio to Cameron with the mix minus. Basically, what we were doing is we had a bus output, Norm, here called mix minus, that you can see somewhere around this area right here. And we're going to go here to the mix minus. I'm going to press bus 5, and I've got a post fade send of my voice, and then also a post fade send of music, because I just wanted to demonstrate that I could send him music or other tracks. Then that means what's most important about this is that Cameron on the phone was not going to hear himself back, because he was on channel 11, and 11, as you can see, is sent as, it's disabled. It shows currently as a send fade mode, but the send is in infinity. So it's disabled, that you're not sending the talent back themselves, because obviously we can't just send a mix back for this. But that's a really great question, Norm. Thanks for asking, because the mix minus is super important, no matter what type of recorder or scenario that you're using, that you're setting up the right mix to send to the IEMs or set speaker. Great question. Cool. Fluke, thanks for the comment. Wouldn't a speaker feed come back into the boom? Yes, it would. But in a scenario where you need to hide it on the talent, as long as it is clean of what their dialogue is happening, then you're going to be okay. You just need to be wary and aware of any delays. So if the talent reading the off-camera dialogue is in the same room, etc., where that is not compensated for, that could be a problem. But that's a great comment. And then the submix, Norm, is what solves that problem, because we have control completely of what sends to that speaker. Really great question. What I learned, you need a Google Voice account, which I have, and I need a USB-C phone, Android, which I don't have, iPhone. Yeah, Alan, I don't know what the protocol is with an Android phone, but I will say this. If you have an iPad, you can do the same thing here with the iPad. I just chose to do it with the phone, and the reason why I did is because I'm using a screen share right now, hardlined for this stream on the iPad, so it's kind of hijacking the USB-C for this particular purpose. So it was a workaround. But yeah, thank you so much for the comment. Andres, what does the IEM stand for? Really great question. It is an IEM is a in-ear monitor. I was thinking IB for a second, interruptible foldback. It's in-ear monitor is what IEM stands for. So it could be anything that goes in the ear. It could be like something I like to use a lot is a Bubblebee Sidekick. I like it because it has a high output volume, and I can use a analog receiver and to drive it and get more range than, say, an Invicity Phonak, which is like the really small preferred ones. And it just depends on the workflow what I'll try to use. But good question. Sorry I didn't mention what that is during the stream. So always a wealth of information from Australis. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for being here. I think you're in Australia or Australis. Lost audio was very temporary. All good. Good, Norm, because I was about to take all of this for take 2. So thanks for the clarification. Would you also have a phone record audio if possible? Yes, Fluke. Very important point. Remember here on that phone input that it is armed. So I am actually recording that into the mix, which is super important. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it's if someone was reading off camera and we were sending it to an IEM, and it was a talent, we could still record that. with a wire. It doesn't have to be, this same workflow is not just phone patch. It's pretty much anything that emulates a phone patch follows the same principles. This was just one of the tricks, one of the things that I found interesting that I thought we should cover, that we could do here on the stream. All thanks for the explanation for that. Yep, always happy to do it. It was a bus output. That makes sense. Yep, we were talking about making sure it wasn't going to feed the input source back into the output source. And I have an iPhone 8, so Lightning connector, not USB-C. USB-C is much more audio friendly in several ways. I'm glad you bring that up, Alan, because there is a way on the, I know on my Sonosax M2D2, there is I think it's a Lightning to maybe USB-C adapter. I'm sorry not being clear, but there's a very special adapter, and it's not the regular one from Apple, that will make this work with Lightning. You just have to use the right type of adapter and it should work. As far as what it's going to do in the Scorpio or MixPre 3, I don't know, but before I started working with this Scorpio, I was doing it with the Sonosax M2D2, and I also, like you, had the Lightning connector. So glad for that comment, actually. And it looks like the last comment here, would this work if production needed a FaceTime call? That's a really good question. So I haven't tested this workflow with a FaceTime call. Last time I did a FaceTime call on set, the talent was actually in the other room, the off-screen talent, because they wanted to use a real FaceTime call for the show. So what we did is we put a lav on them, and then what we did is record that ISO clean so they had the other side of the FaceTime call as another audio option. And then we just used the audio from the FaceTime call normally and naturally with the on-screen talent. As far as patching a FaceTime call, I don't think, since we're interfacing with the phone here at the sound cart, that's really going to be a type of workflow we would use in that situation. But that's a great question, and it really points to the fact that no matter what kind of workflow you're doing for a phone or communication patch type workflow, there's a lot to think through, and just by thinking about all the possibilities and experimenting with this is really going to help us be successful. So I think that pretty much takes us out of time today. I want to say thank you, everyone, for joining the stream. If you came in late, feel free to start from the top where we cover everything about the phone patch and do a live demo. And just want to say thanks for being here, and hopefully we'll see all of you guys next week, and we'll talk to you soon.